It's, yeah, I mean, I just bringing up the idea, because we're talking about project requests, how you wanna slot it.
I mean,
I think I can convince you because it's promotional value.
we have the money here to do it here. I mean, if you wanna do it here, this is where we do
No, I mean,
water.
how you classify it,
Just want it, you want
your,
yours.
you put it where you think it goes, so.
Is that the will of the majority?
I
guess
love a
so
little
we know what
water
it
tower.
costs.
I want it cost, but I mean, when I think of that area over there,
I
we're
think
talking about lighting it up. I also want to talk about how to exit a different way than you come in, and just there's a lot I'd like to do over there. So that's a.
Is lighting it up going to infringe on any of the people who live there? Is it going to be obnoxiously bright at night when they are trying to sleep? I'm thinking of the people that were down here and the lights were.
I don't think it affects like their derby light.
I mean, they're
I
kind of
think the way
shrouded the
it's-
grounds with white.
And
I
I
mean, I
think
don't
that
know
the
how
way
it's
it's
done.
placed, it's kind of between the two streets. So I hope, but that may be something we want to be mindful of. I like the idea. I think it's.
If this is what the council wants to go for, and we get more than just a ballpark figure, we would just have to tell them like, hey, we can't have light pollution in these homes, and they would give us a design that would account for that. Whether it's ground lit and there's a shroud, or sometimes they put the lights right beneath the bowl
Yeah.
above the stem, and in that case, if they're pointed inward, it's totally not gonna be bothering the adjacent neighbors.
And an estimate of what the electricity cost is per year for whatever type of,
Maintenance,
yeah, lighting. I mean.
There is a light on it right now. The light's the underneath.
Oh.
No, you go by it tonight, there's one light. That's why the bottom part of the bulb on the north side is lit, has kind of lit up and has some
Well,
light.
there go their other consulting and planning cuts.
For me, I wouldn't mind doing this, but I don't know if this is the year to do it, and the reason that I say that is we have a lot of big things that we're trying to do this year. I know we're not raising the mill levy, but we still have to be very mindful of the fact that even with the exceeding R&R, like people are paying more taxes, and so and it's a very strained time in our community for people that are paying the taxes, and so I think the things on this list, the things that we're doing and focusing on, because I've been making my R&R justification list right here, right? And as I do that, I think that there's a lot of things in our community that I'm writing down that are justifying, for me in my mind, exceeding R&R, and which basically, like, I know we're not raising the mill levy, but it is making people pay more taxes, and I think that we need to be mindful about the things that we're doing. And I think that lighting up the water tower would be awesome when we start seeing the results of all of the development that's coming, and we can do things like not exceed the R&R, but we still have a lot of extra money coming in because of all the new developments. This year I understand why we need to do it, because Brooke has done a fabulous job showing us like why we need to exceed the R&R, especially with the things that we're doing at the senior center, and maintaining the pool improvements in the means, but in the senior mills, like all of the things are saying like these are things that I can get behind, like exceeding R&R, making our community pay more taxes. But I don't know if this year is the year for the water tower. I'd like to see that when we start seeing some results of all the building that we're doing, and we start seeing that income, that money start to flow in, because people are strapped right now.
The Star Bond is.
The Star Bond's paid off, and we start seeing the results of some of the growth that we're doing, and so where it's not like we have to be mindful to our community and where they're at right now.
I think
would love to light it up.
I think when we're talking about that area, and I know that lighting the water tower and what I'm about to say are two very different cost budgets, I'm sure, but something, when you bring up just the water tower and I think of where it's located at, especially with, when you go to deliver meals, like there's one way in and one way out, and I've had a lot of concern, especially with the district locking their gate, and we're leaving these seniors and these children who are walking to school stranded essentially over there, not having sidewalks, not having any other access or resources, and so I would really like to know I'd really like to see that start to become a priority in our mind on what we can do or where we can fit that in the next few years in our budget to fix that area for them.
And there's areas with the
Mhm.
sidewalks, like
It's-
kids can't.
And maybe maybe that is, you have to put a sidewalk down Walnut, and maybe that is, which we still have to find a way for them to kick out there, but I think that in my head is like the next few years. I mean, I'd like to see that, obviously ASAP, but I know that's,
It's a challenge, we've looked at that several times, and yes, we could totally build the sidewalk all the way up Walnut to the Fourth or Third and go through that drainage easement there. Since it's, what I learned more recently is since it's a drainage easement, we can't necessarily use it for a walking path without getting, I think we have to get permission, and then the medical lodge is a private road too. So you have to go from a public street to a private road, then to the sidewalk, cross the drainage easement, get dumped onto what we have to build a new
Main Street.
sidewalk and then north. So it's a challenge, but I've heard from the property owners too. So it's not unsolvable.
yeah, I mean, I just think I used to live on Walnut, and not only do people fly down that road, but, it's the bus route, it's the snow route, and
It's heavily trafficked and it's, I mean, we do need to figure out a way to connect that part of our community back into our city. So I agree with Naomi for the water tower light up at this time. I mean, I think that's something that will come. But I think that it would be wiser to hold off on that specific project at this time.
I also wonder if it doesn't lend itself well to like the tail end of the branding promotion type thing, is if the rebranding results in any kind of logo change or anything, we tackle that on the water tower, light it at that time. I
as we're getting quotes, can we maybe talk about doing that?
What's for,
Like the rebranding, and you say you guys have one loosely, but you're gonna kind of look at somewhere, I would agree with that.
I hope we don't have to do a logo. I hope we can have just a Visit Goddard logo. We'll see.
maybe that's the case, I just,
Yeah.
without knowing that,
Yeah.
I hate to light it up and, I don't
And
know.
then have to redo that.
Yeah.
And we might be able to turn it into a profit center too, if we could, figure out how to attach a zip line. And then we could run it into that vacant field
You can't
and
afford the insurance.
this,
Yeah.
But you know, we're talking about 150 here, and you've only had one quote, so maybe as we're talking about branding or promoting the city just in general, maybe you get a quote that's a little less, and then we can start having the conversations about lighting this, where we're like, hey, we budgeted 150, it's only gonna cost us 115. And we can kind of do that, but when you're asking what projects we wanna see, like, it's very important to me that we see some sort of connecting what we need to do to get that little island of our community better taken care of.
And while we're throwing out things, cause you brought up, do we have any other requests? It's definitely probably not for this next budget season, but when you're talking visibility for Goddard, driving down Kellogg, something I think at some point, I don't know what it looks like, but I've not talked to the mayor about it, is a way to know where Main Street is. When I'm driving down.
That sign's been ordered, but it has not come in
I was
yet.
going to ask that after the meeting.
No, it's been ordered,
No.
yeah, it has not arrived yet. I checked on it, supposedly it's getting fixed.
No, but thank you for getting it ordered, and, yeah.
Yeah, but, and then maybe even in the future though, I know what I've talked to the mayor about, is like, you go to downtown Branson where the landing is, you go to my mom's hometown, Parsons, Kansas, a simple, like, gateway arch type sign, you know, something
Well,
like that.
that is, Ryan's not here, or he would speak to this. These are
That's part of
conversations that are
Main
being,
Street,
that's
Kansas.
part of the Main Street, because
Okay.
there could be hopefully some funding grants, things that would come through that, so that doesn't have to come out of this budget, would be the goal, and
Like I said, I haven't been involved in those conversations.
yeah,
but-
I mean, we're all like, let's get a beautiful stone arch, but that's.
Well, it doesn't mean that it's stone.
the other thing I think we need to remember too is at this point, Sedgwick County, has expressed, and spoken to the, issue of the revenue neutral rate, and if they pull back their mill levy, that's gonna create a savings amount. Our 289,000, that's, per house. I know we talked about maybe, did you get a chance to talk to Craig about getting an example to show what the difference is on just one property? Because if Sedgwick County pulls back and lowers their mill levy a little bit on fire protection and also their portion, and I don't know if the school district's gonna probably be pretty close to zero, they kind of fiddle back and forth, but the actual impact on the Goddard residents, the savings from those other entities will reduce the impact of us staying the same.
Mhm.
And if your house valuation hasn't changed, then you really have no impact or any change on what your tax is gonna be in the following year. So some people, by just staying the same, if their valuation didn't go up, but if it went up 2%, their impact is gonna be pretty minimal. So it's a variable impact, and if the county and the school district pull theirs back, we still might see a net decrease in taxes for everyone by staying.
My
By
hesitation in doing that though is that we have a new legislature coming and all these changes, and they're talking about messing, and
No,
this is
what
brave.
I'm saying
Yeah.
is, by what we're doing, by staying where we are, exceeding the revenue neutral rate, that impact is gonna be minimized if the other entities in the slice of the pie reduce their mill levy.
Yeah.
For just this year. By staying where we are, that gives us a little bit of cushion to impact what you're talking about if they come in
And they take funding away
and they
from-
change the funding
Mhm.
formula or force us to go back to some different average.
Mayor, remember we started at 41 mills and we decided a couple of months ago we were gonna crank it down to 39, so Brooke has adjusted accordingly. And we are coming up into that pivotal year legislatively, so I almost hesitate to say this, but we have had some very preliminary conversation about what next year looks like after we have the legislative changes. And it's possible that maybe it's not our revenue neutral, but it's some area slightly above it between revenue neutral and 39 mils for the 2028 budget. I mean, we feel like our cash position may allow us to do that next year, but because we've already tweaked this one down 2 mils, we don't know what the legislature's gonna do.
Mhm.
I tend not to make plans based on what they may or may not do, but in this circumstance, you can use a little more judgment
Caution,
and
yeah.
weigh it a little more heavily because tea leaves are looking a little stronger than usual, so to speak, so.
Well, and I think it would look worse if we tried to crank it down anymore and then next year had to come back and
Exactly.
change it again, so.
Yeah, I'm not trying to, I don't think we were talking about cranking it down though, like we were talking about exceeding, right, the revenue neutral rate, which is fine, like I can understand it now because Bert's done a good job, but I just wanna make sure that we're still,
Our goal is to get
if all of
better.
those things come to effect and it doesn't impact our residents as much, or they get a little bit back, awesome, right, that's where we wanna be, is that we can still meet our budget and then they can maybe get a little bit of that back, as opposed to like, let's just add more things that we can purchase and, I just wanna be mindful that we're in a time where our residents
Can't afford to live.
can't afford to live, right? Like that new, Alice report came out and I read that thing and I took it seriously. There's, a very large percentage of Sedgwick County who can't afford to just pay their bills, right? So even though it might seem like a very minimal impact for those of us that can afford it, there's a lot of people that can't.
Mm-hmm.
They can't even afford $5 more, cause right now they're, already, like I think it was over 60% of the Sedgwick County residents are living paycheck to paycheck and can't afford.
And we're talking about some increases coming again with the water as well, and
Yeah.
I know they know it's coming, but it still hurts to see the
Well,
bill when it comes,
it increases 1.5% or 2%.
1%,
1%?
I think.
I think it's 1.5 or 2, but my point just was is that we're already looking towards 2028 and we're trying to put a plan together to go lower than 39 mils, cause we agree with you. We just want caution because we already went from 41 to 39 and the legislature's about to get funky. We don't wanna get too aggressive with it this year.
I agree, yeah. I'm not trying to make it like, but I feel like we've been very conservative with the budget and we're cutting where we can cut and we're doing the right things with the money, so I'm not concerned about it. I just wanna make sure we keep doing that. We don't add projects that this year, you know.
And I keep repeating this, but it's important that people understand that, one, we found significant savings in health insurance, whether it's the water treatment facility, discharging, how we get rid of the leftover waste. Then we've also increased fees on the builders, so those people are paying a fair share to tie into our community. And then the last piece is the fact that our retail base is also growing, so our sales tax revenue and our valuation is increasing because we're growing. So we've done all three things you can do to maximize and make things efficient, so.
I agree.
But I think it's important that we keep saying that because people don't really understand those three buttons or those three pedals. And so here again, that's part of telling the story of what's going on out here, so. Next battery.
Alright, park project requests, so, we did have several that didn't make the list, so we did make some cuts on this one, but we did narrow it down to, our sprinklers at Leonard Park need some repairs if we wanna continue to water and keep our stuff alive over there. So I think this one was, on our radar last year and we weren't able to do it, so we did keep it on here. This one's an exciting one because it's part of, shows our 5 and 5 street program. This is our general fund street projects, and so it's kind of, to me, it may seem kind of backwards, but we have a street fund, which we're gonna talk about after we're done with this fund, that's separate on its own, but it doesn't have the revenue stream over there that it needs, so it relies on transfers from the general fund, which also gets that mill levy dollars that we need in there for the 5 and 5 program. But these are the projects that, we will do in the street fund. We will transfer the dollars to it. We plan to do the Main Street median project for $25,000 is what we've estimated that to be. That's what you were talking about, Corey. We're going to do the engineering and design at the 183rd and Maple roundabout. That's
The cost share with Sedgwick County, and it includes pavement all the way up to Central.
Yeah, that's great.
So, and I think we're paying 1/3 of the preliminary engineering with that.
Yeah. Annual street maintenance of $250,000, that's what we always do. When we get done with the 5 and 5 program, we'll probably bump that dollar up a little bit more, but, that is also usually bid in with the 5 and 5 program, so usually get a pretty good deal when doing that. The US 54 and 199th intersection, engineering and design, we put some dollars into that bucket to start that project. I know it's on our CIP, so we need to start moving forward with that and know that it's going with that.
Or can I just add to that? That one's a little variable. I'm trying to figure out when GFT is gonna be done with the TEEP study. Jason and I met with a consultant today about Crown Drive extension and some grant programs there. So we kinda wanna have a second horse in the race in case one project can get funded through a different program and one can't. I think if you had Crown Drive, all you need to do at 199th is some of the stuff we're already doing in the southwest corner, plus add turn lanes on both sides, and you'd probably be in pretty good shape, similar to the 183rd. But if Crown Drive is way out of sight, then you probably need to do something a little more significant, at 199th, talking about doing some turnbacks to get those frontage roads away from the intersection with the highway. So, that 300,000, that's about 10% of 3 million. Just adding turn lanes at 199, it may only be 1.2 million bucks, and so then we might have some preliminary engineering dollars to start designing Crown Drive. So that one's gonna be contingent on some business owners to see if they wanna, be special assessed for a part of that leg on Crown Drive. We're working with a consultant on the KDOT grant program, so, there might be a time, years from now, where we're asking you guys, hey, are you willing to maybe borrow some funds to do some match, because we got a grant that we couldn't really budget for, cause grants are.
Well, we've also
very
kind of run this, the Crown Drive program is kind of on the list at Wampa.
It is.
And so the potential for funding on that based on the criteria that the selection committee uses, from what they verbalized at one of the meetings I listened to, this project, the Crown Drive project, would hit all the buttons, cause
Scores super high.
it's tied to the school, our industrial park, we can move all that truck traffic
Yeah.
off of that.
It's regionally significant.
Regionally significant because of the park and everything, so, there's hopefully a day will turn when Wampa will spend, 20% or 15% of what they allocate every 3 or 4 years to the western half of Sedgwick County, so, I've got a chart that shows that in the last 20 years that, I mean, they included our project that we haven't received any money for, but basically, every city in Stephanie's District 3, the only one that's received any funding is Mays. And a lot of that, the reason we haven't is because of the lack of
We haven't been in
involvement.
the room.
And, but there probably needs to be some process of providing funds for the smaller communities as well. But anyway, at least we're at the table, we've got several of these projects, at least in the list to be considered. And it's a 4 or 5 year deal, so.
It's a long game.
So, you know, it takes time, and at least we're, getting some attention. And, there's also the possibility that, you know, we could receive direct funding, which is the $1 million that we got at 183rd Street.
KDOT access management.
Right. So, there are some different funding mechanisms from the state, and maybe that's the money that we can.
We're gonna apply for it all for both projects
Yeah.
and see which one they award. So my point was to just maybe consider being a little flexible on those two. So, and Mayor deserves a lot of credit. He's put in hours of work being at WAMPO, and it's because of his effort that that 183rd Maple project got awarded. So we're
You
grateful
spent a
for
lot of
that.
time involved in that too, and the staff is involved. I mean, Tina put, the other piece of this is the Safe Routes to School program that they're developing.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for that.
Yeah, 2 years though, and they're still just at the point of putting together the process to award any funds. I mean, it just,
It's an act of patience.
but at least we've got, you know, we're on the list. When they show the map, you can see the, I mean, we've got
We're on there.
8 or 9 different segments of that, so.
Okay, operations, so this $550,000 that I put in operations, that's kind of a plug in that we will need to keep the special streets and highway fund at a good level fund balance wise. So I usually I do that fund, which we're gonna see, and I kind of see what we need and then make sure the general fund can afford to send dollars that way to keep it going. And then we have the 5 and 5 street program. That's pretty self-explanatory. That's our $1 million. So all of these dollars would get transferred into the special street and highway fund. So that's a lot of projects. You can see we have about $3.9 million worth of special or worth of general fund projects. So it's kind of like, how are we going to pay for all that? That seems like a lot of money. So the general fund will actually transfer. That number didn't print out on that one. The general fund will transfer $2.6 million to, 350,000 to the equipment fund, 1.3 to, let's see here. I just picked up.
Capital project.
Capital projects, and 25,000 for park projects. And, that totals, the general fund's total transfers out will be 2.6 million. And that remaining dollar amount, which isn't showing up here under the capital improvement, is 1.3 million. So what I'm trying to say is the general fund can support 2.6 million, but we're going to use up 1.3 in our capital improvement fund to cover all the other projects. So that was kind of scary for me to try to, is that gonna work? So I immediately have to go over to the capital improvement fund to see where we are in that. And I can assure you when we meet for that one, we're A-okay. There's no problems with that. In fact, all the projects that I have in there, we're still gonna be setting probably at the end of 2027 at about $2 million or less in that fund. So I haven't ran it really through with Craig to show how that's going to work, but I feel confident that we have enough dollars based on what we're going to use out of the general fund and then what we're gonna use out of the capital improvement fund to accomplish this mission. So, okay.
And the other piece of this is, we're not borrowing money to do all this work. So if we do get pinched next year or the year following, we can make adjustments in some of these programs that we're doing without any real impact. So, and the other thing I think and maybe this is a sidebar, but, you know, we're gonna be fixing those 3 entryways off of the highway.
KDOT's kicked in.
KDOT's paying for half of it, or?
Yeah, we got them, Tina and Jason, got them to agree to it, so we signed a contract with them for that a couple weeks ago, but yeah, they're paying for half of that.
Replacing
And the pipes.
pipe, replacing pipe.
Culvert pipes?
Yeah, I couldn't figure out what it was. Chief and I were like, what is that? And then I remembered KDOT's putting those pipes in.
Well, it might be something that we need to let people in the community know about, because it looks like they're getting ready to tear out the first intersection. I mean, they're out there working, so.
I think they're getting ready, but I don't think they're quite ready yet.
Right, but I just think in terms
We'll
of,
make sure we'll
let everybody in the
Yeah.
community know.
Everyone's gonna show up for church on Sunday.
Put you guys out there and do a video.
Yeah. We'll just-
I assure you they'll be just very happy that it's being done.
Oh, yeah, the 3 weeks that it's blocked off.
Yeah.
I want to make a quick mention about the 5-to-5 program. So there's been some discussion about, so 2027 is Spruce, Pine, and Oak from 3rd to the highway. We've got that planned for, because of what we foresee as some of our B-, C+ streets kind of starting to deteriorate a little more quickly. We think it might be prudent to, in 2028, spend our full 1.25 on pavement preservation. Jason's a street guy, he was in the street department for 7 years, and I've learned from him and from engineers and others that your money may be better spent taking care of those roads before they get to the point where they're at, and you're having to do full depth reconstruction. It's just more cost efficient. You can speak to that, so.
Yeah, so anytime you do a street thing, that's the thing you look at your streets that are kind of in the mid there, to bring them at least a level of 2. Your lowest streets will always be your lowest streets, the 1s and 2s, or I guess here you guys have the A's and, or the E's and F's.
B- is the lowest.
Yeah, B-. Those will stay that way, so it's best to put your money into those streets that you can raise up a level or 2 through street preservation. It's always a mixed bag to do a little bit of street preservation with your full depth reconstruction as needed, but Craig's not wrong with maybe spending 1 whole year doing nothing but crack sealing and surface sealing and doing those things that can keep those, and milling overlays to keep those streets from deteriorating even further.
And then we'll get back on track in 2029, which by that point, I think we're like 2 years left. That's kind of where we're thinking, kind of decision we made. Obviously, we want you guys to be on board with that, but just some of these neighborhoods that were built 30 years ago, if you start driving through them, you know, it's like, we don't start taking care of those soon, they're gonna be the B- roads, and there's 55 lane miles of street in a small but mighty town, so we don't wanna.
Are you saying put off like Spruce?
No. Spruce, pine, and oak from Third to US 54.
Say, please don't cut off spruce.
Wait,
I
wait.
drive it.
Yeah.
I know that I live on the good side of spruce, but
Mhm.
I drive to go get her in the mornings and I'm like, what?
I know.
It's like a roller coaster.
If
ride.
I
I'm not
could-
exaggerating.
If I could go back, I would have flip-flopped. We would have worked north to south, but I can't go back.
Mm.
What I led off with is, in 2027, we
Yes.
are going to do spruce, pine, and oak
Okay.
from Third to 54. In 2028, we'd like to consider spending our full 1.2 on preservation, and then back to full depth reconstruction in 29.
27's definitely doing the water, streets are definitely doing, so we're moving the water lines, so yeah.
They are.
We're committed. We're
So
committed.
what streets would we have been doing, for 2028?
I believe the Elk Ridge, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that's right, yeah, I think that's average.
That might have been it, for as far as how far out we had planned.
No, that's what I mean, I was just
It
trying.
might be the last year. And really, there's one spot in Elk Ridge that we need to do before 2029. It needs full depth patch, and it's on that eastern entrance, so. But, you know, we got Paid Edition, we got like Argonne and where all that stuff is on the south side, you know, that we may do in 2030. And then after that, we need to focus on our intersections and our arterials, so.
Well, I know that when we started, the general plan was to knock out all the D minus. And I think if we finish out Oak and the nice part of Spruce, that, do we have any D minus streets left?
By that time,
Well, I'm just saying,
May.
Yeah.
but from that original list that we looked at in 2024, I think that,
From that original list, probably not, but if, looking ahead.
well, if you do your AI analysis,
That's gonna be, and that's another reason we want that software. If we're gonna spend 1.25 in 2028, we wanna be perfect with what we're hitting.
So I was gonna say, I'd like to see what that analysis says, and I'd also like to kind of get an estimate of, you know, the potential cost savings by working on those roads in 2028 versus holding off on them. I mean, I get it, obviously you save a ton of money not having to do a full depth in a few years versus,
We could look at that for
yeah,
sure.
just come up with that.
but my thing is when we started down this path, we made a commitment to the community to do this group of streets. And if we've got those done in 2027, then I'm fine with with that, but if there's a street in there that we had committed to do, we
We
maybe
need to
need
stick with our
to
commitment.
stick with that
Elk
commitment.
Ridge, I think, is the only one that would
And
be.
it might,
delayed.
but it might even be spending $300,000 just to do a section of it so that we do the worst part of it. I'm just.
The problem with it and Pawnee is it's not an engineered road. They did it, it's kind of a slapstick way, so.
It's
Sorry,
kind
we're
of-
getting into road science here. And then, you know, Pawnee from Maine to 215's not even on the list and it is falling apart. So there's still some projects out there that we haven't accounted for in our CIP that we're gonna have to get, when we do our annual update, get worked in there.
Well, in that situation, ties the township, because the county doesn't, county has no interest in that because something that happened 15 years ago when they redid it. The county said, we'll help pay for it, but we wanna do it this way. And the city and the township said, we're gonna do it our way.
You just put asphalt on top of their road, they didn't engineer it.
So now the county engineer, he's got a good memory, he goes, you know, that's not, we're not.
Just very, very quickly, can you touch on the 3 intersections that came off, that's being done?
Casado, Oak, and what's
Is it in front of Ace?
Yeah,
That was the thing.
Casado, that's
That's what
Casado.
we
Casado. No, we put in Maine.
It was the 3 worst ones, so there's 4 bad ones, one of them got punted.
Was
It's the
Tag
3
on
were,
there?
I believe so.
I'm looking at you over
It
there.
better be because I told him it was.
Amen. Don't make a liar out of it.
She said they and pointed it out, so I think
She knew where my answer came from. My whole car about fell in it the other day, so just trying to.
I just think it's important to point out that the state is, KDOT's getting in on that.
Yeah, we have,
And we have to give TM the lion's share of that.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Congratulations on that,
Yeah.
because it was her.
All right, my computer's about ready to die, so
It's a workshop, they don't go fast.
I'm down to 9% of power.
Alright. General fund balance, compliance and projections, and to me, this is pretty much our Bible, and this is kind of what keeps me feeling like we can spend this kind of money and where we end it at the end of the day. So, 2026, our ending fund balance should be around 2.6 million if our expenses and our revenues come in as what we expect them to be. That is 33% reserve left over, and as you recall, 25% is what we're aiming for. So it is dipping down just a bit from 51 to 33, but we're just using up fund balance to take care of projects is what we're doing. So, you know, I feel good about that. I kind of feel like if we can remain in the 30s, you know, throughout 2030, that gives us our cushion. In 2028 and forward, I increased our revenues by 8%. That's pretty conservative, but I did reduce that number out by our big admin fee that we saw in 2027, so that's not accidentally added in every year, which we will have admin fees in those years too coming in. I just don't know what they are right now. Expenses, I went ahead and increased those by 10% just to make it really large, just to make sure that, you know, we're covering things in there. So if our total expenses increase, you know, 10% year over year, we would be covered. As you saw this year, they really only went up about 5%. So, you know, just kind of an estimate. Transfers out, this is where we can juggle. So if we start, if our fund balance isn't where we want it to be, let's say our projections are down and are not accurate, we can always adjust our transfers out to accommodate those and not do projects. You know, we come back and say, well, we better not do that or this based on, you know, we need to keep our levels there. It's really hard to get all of the projects done in 1 year, so there are times when the cash flow just helps us out because, you know, stuff will drag on into 2028 that weren't paid for, kind of like what we're seeing now with the 5 and 5 program. Those expenses are coming in, you know, in January and February, so they're getting booked to now, and so it just helps our cash flow out, keeps us where we want to be. Congratulations, you've completed the general fund.
That's the biggest part, it's like 2/3 of the budget, so.
Yeah.
8% of power left in my computer.
Okay. Does anybody need a break? 'Cause I mean, we do have, are we ready to roll? Are we good? Keep going? Just wanted to ask that. I mean, we've been going for 2.5 hours now.
Let's take a 5-minute break.
Free for days or
Let's just take a 5-minute break.
5-minute break, so we can recoup.
I just need to stand
These will go faster. There's not a whole lot.
We promise not to ask too many questions.
You guys ask away. We
No,
plan
no,
to
I'd
be
like to
participating
eat.
in 3 hours. I mean, this is the process. So don't worry.
It's like, oh no, my wife did
Talk, ask questions, do it all.
Okay.
That way, when we actually have the hearings without the budget in September,
No, thank
we talked about this for 8 hours earlier this year.
We just come up with work. Well, I've been in my leadership for a couple years, so it's like different stuff with training.
I'm fine shutting it off.
I'm taking more calls.
I'm fine.
Yeah, I told my wife, I'm like, she's
I
gotta
just
do
want
my,
to get
so that's all,
I can send them-
for, whoever's supposed to keep me accountable. So like, I knew I'd be low in
Instead of saying-
social awareness, cause I'm already aware of
Yeah.
very aware, but my self-awareness was also low enough. Yeah, I try to pick up on social issues a lot of times. My wife told me like, this is social awareness for all my classes. They were actually being sarcastic. No, I didn't get it. Like,
Get the magnet one.
correct.
I still don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so we can just start figuring all that out. They're 99 before next
Two sustaining, okay?
Not really, but.
Well, I saw that Jim must finally entertained now, so I'm not too like, yeah.
They're like, you know, the flags.
I mean, one thing is,
Yeah, it seems like it wouldn't, shouldn't be that expensive. It would be cool, but.
I heard about that.
Okay.
I've been
We're
talking
gonna
to
get there.
Tracy, so.
We're gonna get there.
So.
We're doing really good.
I don't know.
Me? Yeah, okay. So, the next section that we're going to go through, and this will go fairly quickly because it's pretty cut and dry. We will talk about the special highway and street fund, our library fund, and our bond of interest fund. So if we start talking right away with the revenues in our special highway fund, so this is where I mentioned that we don't bring in enough revenue and we have to make a transfer in from the general fund to make it happen. You can kind of see our revenue sources. So we get special, highway tax from the state and county, and these numbers are given to us by the county. So, you know, they look really close to last year, or the 2026 projection and the 2027 budget. Those are given to us and we're pretty much the same. Interest income, we'll have a little bit of interest in this fund as well. Community impact fees, this is fees that we bring in from developers, and we're kind of seeing that number increase. It started in 2024, way late in the year, so that's why it's so short there. So those are the revenues that we're bringing in. We got some miscellaneous revenue, and then you see our transfers from the general fund. So again, I'm going to try to handle all street operations in here. So when we put money over here into this fund for street operations, we are going to do all streets over here. So the dollars remain here for streets as we move them out. Expenses, all of public works is divided into basically three categories: water, sewer, and streets. And so all of the personnel, capital equipment that we have, all of those sorts of items, this fund gets a piece of that as well. So they get a third of those utility funds. So you can see why it costs so much. We're not just doing streets. It has salaries, administration, we have operations, and then we have these other departments within the street fund. We have a stormwater allocation in there. We're trying to stop doing that because we actually have a stormwater fund now, and so we're going to start handling the stormwater costs over into that bucket. Lighting and signals, this is for our street lights. Anytime we have to do maintenance on some of those can be very costly. Also signals, I think even striping and some of that stuff might even fall into those types of categories there. Might be up in their operations as well. Mosquito control, you saw we took that out. We don't have anything budgeted for that this year. And our capital outlay is all of our projects. So you can see how that's jumped up. And why 2025 looks funny, I'm sure everybody's wondering that. That was the budget that was given to me, and it wasn't handled through this fund. So.
I know that we are not doing the mosquito control, but I have received text messages from people who live over in Cloverleaf, and the midge fly situation is horrendous.
My in-laws live there.
It's really awful, and I don't know what our options are to mitigate that, because the videos are pretty intense. I wouldn't want to live in
Greg
that.
has talked to me about, with KDA and see what we can do.
Okay.
And potentially see what options that we have to mitigate some of those problems, so.
I think there's a couple options. One, we could spray on the city property, just on our property back there around the lagoons. I don't necessarily think I'm not gonna go out on a limb and say it's because of the lagoons. Obviously, they're a neighbor to these properties, so it's possible. So we could spray on our property back there. The other option is the HOA could hire a commercial applicator to come out there and spray.
Well, they're not going to do that.
Well, if it's a bad enough issue to them, they may decide they want to.
I'll say my in-laws spray regularly. They have a company come out and fog their yard or whatever, and still, daily, you go to their front porch if they leave the light on, they're just all over it. Like, you can't even step this front door. You want to go through the garage.
Yeah,
And
it's
you can
terrible.
see them as you're driving along the road, just swarming along the sidewalk.
Okay.
I'll send you guys an email.
Yeah, I wanna see it. I mean,
Oh, it's awful.
It is,
I
you can
mean,
just see them swarming about sidewalks, like, just
the
getting out
kids
of our vehicle, I
outside
tell my
playing-
kids to hurry and get out,
The
shut
kids
the
outside
doors so
playing
they don't.
in the streets, and they're swarming all around them.
Yeah.
It's not good.
I don't know what causes them.
is there something different? I'm not even gonna get into what this mosquito control
That's
is,
separate.
but is there something different that can be sprayed, like it's
We
fine.
can check it out.
Okay.
Okay.
It's kind of a specific isolated
And I don't know if it's because it's a fairly new development right there, or.
When I lived over there, we had issues with the, clover vines.
Yeah, well, we had those in my house.
Yeah, like.
And we spray all the time for them, they just keep coming. I don't know what the deal with those is.
I don't know, that's why the pest control companies keep knocking on my door trying to sell me more.
Well, I think it's an issue, and it's something that's affecting one of the major communities in our,
Quality of life.
yeah,
Quality of life, neighborhood issue.
quality of life.
We'll come up with a couple of solutions.
Right, standing
So
water.
you guys are comfortable with it.
We, a lot of times they have things kitchens.
I mean, if we
Neighborhoods
have
have a lot of
lines
kitchens.
just spraying our property and see if that makes a difference.
Maybe it's a conversation with the HOA to see like, could they talk to their people and find out like, do they want the neighborhood sprayed, and if
I'll
the
say my
majority
in-laws
of the
go to
HOA
all their HOA
said yes,
meetings,
then we
and
could.
it's very difficult to get the HOA to do anything.
But
Not
if
enough people
they're,
show up.
but will they just ask their people, do they care if the city sprays in their neighborhood? You know what I mean,
Yeah,
like,
maybe.
if we say we'll do it, but you have to agree that you want it done.
Well, is it council directed to completely terminate the program?
Yeah.
So if we're gonna spray on our property, then I would wanna get the blessing from you guys to do that. And let alone if their HOA says yes, to go even a step further into their neighborhood only. So we'll let Jason and I do some chatting and see what we can come up with.
Any additional expenses that get added to this fund would have to include an additional transfer from the general fund over here. We're right on the edge of where we wanna be on this fund. Actually, we're gonna go dip down a little low, but I'm gonna explain to you why I think that's gonna be okay. Transfers out, nothing, capital outlay, that's what I wanna talk about. So you can see in 2025, it's only 49,000. We weren't handling street operations here in 2025. If you recall, we handled a piece in the general fund under capital discretionary outlay, and a portion of it was handled in the capital improvement fund. My methodology is we are handling everything in the street fund, because I really want the dollars to stay here. And you can see them here if there's any left over at the end of the year after you use them. So, the projects that we've got, that we plan to do, some of these are, you've already heard before, but, in 2026, we've got our 5-5 street program and annual maintenance. 2027, again, our 5-5 annual street maintenance, Main Street crosswalk project, I think it's named differently on the other slide, that's my problem, I'm sorry about that. 183rd and Maple Roundabout, in US 54, 199 intersection. So all of those projects will be handled inside this fund as you transfer the dollars over here, okay? This one, you can see, kind of dips into the red, and actually we plan for it to dip down into the red this year in 2026, but I think we're gonna be at about 38% versus into the 20s from last year. I kind of feel like it's okay, just because the cash flow is gonna keep us probably in the 30s if you were to actually, cash flow this out properly. But, we've got our revenues coming in, from our general fund particularly, and then our expenses going out kind of based on, those factors there. So, again, 2027, we're gonna dip below that 25%, but I think we're gonna be okay. We still have significant fund balance, $666,000 left over there. So we got a lot of money to play with. I'm okay with dipping down to that, because I really think the actual is gonna be higher than that at the end of the day. So, any questions with that?
Well, we don't have any bids yet for like the Main Street crosswalk, right? So that's just a.
We're probably gonna do that in-house.
Okay.
We got a really good group of guys that do awesome concrete work.
About here.
If something significant happened in some of these estimates that we have, and we come back and we're like, whoa, it's way over, we would have to readjust what we wanna do probably, and we'd bring that case by case when it happened, so.
We get a sub-bid or two.
Okay. So that's it for the street fund. Any questions?
So, alright, sorry, I have one question that I just thought of.
Yeah.
AI Biolytics street assessment software doesn't get transferred into this, or does?
No, it doesn't, that, to me.
It's just a standalone project?
Yeah, we're just gonna pay for that out of the general fund and not transfer it. I'm kinda calling that more, capital projects that we're just gonna do. We could put it here, it's just kind of, I didn't put it
Okay,
there.
I was just wondering.
I know.
where you fit this.
But we're gonna use it for more than streets too, after we saw the functionality of it. I think Tyler Tech does a work order system that Brooke didn't want to, which is fine, didn't want to do it until maybe 2028. If we have Biolytics, we'll be able to start a new work order system immediately. Which is something we really need.
It's not that I didn't wanna do it in 2028, I just don't think it'll be ready by then.
As soon as the words came out of my mouth, I was like, right? Sorry.
Same.
So I guess it's just a.
I'll separate both of you and put you in a corner.
I'm just, I'm getting sleepy this time.
No, I know, yeah.
So from my knowledge, though, some of the things we talked about in the capital projects, we either decide not to do or they might come in lower. If you have a fund that actually starts to dip down below that 25%, is there something stopping us from taking extra funds to transfer over to keep it above it, or
You
what's
can't
the policy?
transfer if you don't have transfer authority, and if we didn't make a declaration at budget time that we're gonna transfer those amount of dollars at that time. So
Right, so that's what I was wondering is like,
I can pay for it out of another fund, but I can't transfer it if I don't have
well, and
authority.
that's where I wondered, like, if you put the street assessment in there and it comes in on the budget, it helps that fund, right? I don't know,
The street fund, I mean, I can put it there, but I'm just gonna have to transfer more over there to pay for it. You see,
It's not gonna change the percentage really, it's just, yeah, okay.
No.
I think the issue is, it's okay for a year to dip below that 25%
trend.
and not do it 3 years in a row, then you got a
Right.
trend line established.
Yeah.
Less than 0.5%,
Well-
and she's budgeting conservatively.
Right.
We're
Right.
not
I
gonna
get
go
that.
there.
When we did this last year, we were at about the same place. I mean, and in fact, I remember 2026 saying, I think we're gonna dip, I think we're gonna be in the 23, 24, and I think we're gonna end up better than we did, just based on cash flow and the way that things work that way. So, we're gonna be okay. And if by chance it doesn't, and we do that drill every quarter to see where we are,
Mhm.
and if I'm starting to see a trend where, we're going lower than I expected to be, then I'll probably tell Craig, we're gonna have to pull something back, we're gonna have to slow down, or, but I haven't seen that happen yet.
The fact that you've taken the time to project this out 3 or 4 years gives us good perspective. And, you've been conservative on your increases in revenue, and you're pretty accurate on your expenses, so you allowed for, the upside. So these aren't overly optimistic in terms of what your
Like that.
net result's gonna be, so.
Yeah.
Revenues will be higher than what she's projected, and we could maybe pass the hat and do an over-under on that. But I would guess that, the revenues will be greater than what she's got on that screen, and that 24% will probably be closer to 29.
That's your guess?
That's my guess.
Quarter bit?
Write it down, yeah. You wanna go over that? You get the
Over,
quarter?
under?
Yeah. Think about it.
Over 1%.
Okay. I'll see if I can find the quarter.
There's ways to juggle stuff.
Sure.
And I mean, even if general fund's looking good and we have excess money over there, I can put a portion of that $850,000 that we got for admin fees, I could reclass it into that fund as revenue over there. I mean, that's really, we can put that as a general fund type entity. I mean, I could do different things to
I
make,
think we
to
like
make
the
that
fact
work.
that you don't, it's pretty factual though, so if we don't have to.
Yeah, I don't want it to deviate. Once it's set, I like to keep it like it's supposed to be. So, okay. So that's pretty much streets. Any questions on that?
city.
The thing's hanging in there.
Library fund, just a reminder, the library fund gets 3 mills of our 39.299 mills. And I just wanna let you know that I did meet with the library representatives. We had a meeting and it went really well. I told them, you know, what they can expect. You know, there's a slight decrease in evaluation, so we're gonna have to have, you know, a make whole payment, and they were good with that. They would have been present tonight, but they did have they had their board meeting tonight, and I told them that, you know, I would just relay any changes to them after the meeting today. So, with that being said, their property taxes look about like this. And all the dollars that come in get distributed right back out to them. So that's what we're gonna budget, for their distribution amount of taxes. So this gives you their 8.34% increase, and then all of the other taxes components, just like the general fund, and as you're gonna see with the debt service fund in a minute. So that's what we're looking at. So as I mentioned earlier, we have the make whole payment to them. So statutorily, the library will get their 3 mills. As assessed valuation grows, the dollar value generated by the 3 mills increases. So this is where we decided to make a change last year with our resolution. So, gosh, I cut off there. So if the annual growth revenue generated by the 3 mills is less than our 35,000, the city will provide a supplemental contribution from the general fund to ensure the library receives a minimum of 35,000 in annual funding growth. So in 2026, their library revenue is 282,000. We're projecting 309 this year. That's an increase from the mill levy growth of 26,000. Guaranteed annual growth target was 35,000. So it's looking like an estimated city contribution of about $8,400 to make them whole. So we will do this drill in December of this year to kind of see where we landed and make sure they're getting what they need, and then again in December of next year we'll true that up. So you will see that payment coming out of the general fund, as you saw earlier, out of the department, out of the contractual line item that we pay them. So
The history on the 35,000.
I wouldn't mind, I'm curious why it's a dollar amount, not a percentage amount, or?
This dates back to when I was the intern here and then the assistant to the city administrator. We did our librarian left, so we hired Wichita State to help us do a strategic plan and to hire a new librarian. And we found that, we were paying them barely above minimum wage at the time. And so back then, if you remember, Goddard grew really fast between 2000 and 2010, and there was a pretty good lull for the next 10 years. So you weren't seeing this year-over-year growth in revenue because the assessed valuation increased. So back then, to offer a competitive wage to recruit a librarian, we said we would do, I think it was either an additional 10 or 25, because there's 2 different times this happened. One was 25 and one was 10. I just can't remember which one came first, which is how you get 35. So we passed a resolution, this would have been 2018, saying that we would give them an extra $25,000 so they could afford to pay a competitive wage to recruit a librarian. That was when we recruited April Hernandez, if you remember her. And then she'd been working there for a few years. This next one happened after I had left. But then they decided that the benefits, they weren't able to pay for the health insurance. So we added another $10,000. That's where you get the $35,000. So there's 2 resolutions totaling $35,000 where the city council said we will automatically transfer just a flat $35,000 to the library every year. And the purpose was to help pay a librarian a competitive wage in for the benefits, specifically the health insurance. Last year, as we started looking at the budget, we're like, wow, their annual operating revenue has grown by over 100,000. Just the property tax revenue has grown by over $100,000 from 2024 to 2027 in 3 years. We probably don't need to be giving them that extra $35,000 anymore. So we didn't want to just completely take that out. We said if your revenue growth doesn't exceed this amount, we will net the difference and cut you a check. So Brooke has factored in, we may, instead of giving them 35,000, we may need to give them 8,000, in 2027. I would hope at the rate we're growing, someday we could not have to do that at all, because as you can see, if you go back one slide, their revenue is growing significantly every year. I do think that in 5 years, we'll be very glad that they built up such a strong
Yeah.
fund balance and they're getting that money, because it's gonna be way more expensive to operate the library at the size it will be in 5 years versus what it is today. So, I think all in all, it'll work out how it should 5 years from now, as far as the finances are concerned. I don't think we should have to increase the middle of the allocation then to operate the larger library, because of how much fund balance it would have built and how much the revenue just continues to grow year over year due to our assessed valuation going up. So
Do
that's the
you-
history.
Do you expect the way they're looking at next year, no levy and all that to affect this?
It would affect it, yes. Well, I shouldn't say that with certainty, it'd be up to you guys. If we say, hey, our fund balance looks really great, the legislature didn't cut our kneecaps out, we wanna buy down the mill levy by 3 mils. You could buy that down, from the general fund, or you could say, we're gonna, I don't even wanna say the words out loud.
No, that's all right.
But unfortunately, that could come from the library if you wanted to.
If you don't exceed revenue neutral rate, it will affect them as well though.
That's what I was wondering
Yeah.
too, yeah. So then you could potentially have to get closer to paying out the full 35 if they're not getting.
Maybe, that's something we would have to think about.
Yeah.
And I don't know necessarily that we wanna go revenue neutral. I would think if it's revenue neutral is 36 and next year we still have 39 mils, maybe we wanna do 37.
Right.
Something like that. But, and all those other, just like we talked about yesterday, all those other taxes there are the formula when you plug this in the state form. If it goes down, how much you're allocating, all those other taxes go down too, the motor vehicle, the recreation vehicle, et cetera. So that's what Brooke means when it impacts that as well. It's a formula that ties all of those 5 or 6 together, impacted by the mill levy. So that's the history on 35,000.
So that's it on library. Do we agree on all that? That's pretty cut and dry. Yes?
Quite a story.
Yeah. If you wanna check out that book on story, you can go to the library. You said this was quite a story.
Oh, Christ story.
It's the books in the library.
Yeah. Probably in the basement, the box.
Jason gives me a book of dad jokes for my birthday, so I've been reading that.
Bond interest.
Yes.
Somebody
All
said
right.
it's bond interest.
We are just about done here. All right, so our other, levy fund is our debt service bond and interest fund. And our revenues in this fund are driven by our 2.379 mils in property tax, special assessments that come in, interest earnings, and transfers from our water and sewer fund. So currently, the general fund isn't transferring anything over here. It's other than it's earning its 2.379 mils. This fund supports the repayment of our general obligation bonds, and this is where our temporary notes go to live, so they're live when they're finally permanently financed. 2027 reflects anticipated debt issuance activity and redemption financing. I want to tell you how hard it is to try to calculate when we have 6 temp notes maturing, what our proceeds are going to look like, what our cap interest we're accumulating for those notes going out before the assessments come on the tax rolls, and what we're going to have to do. So Brett at Steeple really helped me put those numbers together to try to determine, how the cash flows in and out of this fund. Bond proceeds for future issuances are estimated and subject to final, so I did my projections out. I don't even know if I did a projection on this one. It's just too hard to do it past, I did not past 2027 because every year changes just so much, and we just gotta make sure we've got enough in there to pay our debt payments, and that's what I'm working for. So Currently, right now, our GO bond summary looks like, we have about 38 million in total GO bonds, and you can see all the different, issuances and their purposes, and their retirement dates and their outstanding balances. So, 2028, we're gonna be looking at, ending that $325,000 worth of payments there outstanding, so that's gonna be coming off of our schedule. All of these other things, specials are paid for. A good portion of this is for our specials, but this is our allocation of those items. Our temporary note summary, which I like to include this in here because it's part of our debt, but, temporary note for interest payments are not handled in the debt service fund, so it's kind of hard to explain, but I wanted to let you know that these are gonna be the items that will be rolling over into, permanent finance into the near future. So you can see the ones, our developer projects, a good portion of those are maturing in 2026 and 2027. Note 2025-1, our SCADA and a developer, it's kind of a combined note. We have about, 1.2 to 1.3 million for our SCADA project in that bucket of cash there. Kind of keeping my eye out on paying that one off when it's time, or maybe even early. I'm kind of seeing some funds in the sewer and water that we may talk about not rolling that into permanent finance. We might be able to pay that off, maybe. So
The SCADA part of that.
the SCADA part.
Just teasing.
Yeah. No, we're not paying off the developer part.
The interest savings of that would be critical as we talk about borrowing for future
Yeah.
projects like
Yeah.
Everly Trails and the transmission line for that well and all the.
Right. So that's where we stand today, and I do have our two new in here, our 2026 1 and 2 that we just did, for our CIDs and things like that, so. Revenue sources, so this is our breakdown of the revenues that we're gonna receive from our property taxes and ad valorem taxes. In 2025, you'll see I added in our project administration fee. If you recall, I needed to put some money over in here to kind of keep it where I wanted it to be to make our debt payments. So a portion of our project administration fee got allocated over here. So again, like I mentioned, we can move those dollars around if there's a reason to do so. Interest income, we bring in about 55,000 or 50 or so of revenue into this based on the balance that it's holding in there. Special assessment tax, I kind of want to highlight that one. It goes up significantly in 2027. Now, the county sent me sheets on what they think we're going to receive in special assessments, and it's not near that dollar amount, but they don't know that we have about 6 tent notes coming due that's going to be put onto the tax rolls to accommodate that. So that's the difference there. 2024, I just want to make a special note, 819, somebody prepaid their specials, so that's why that one looks high, and then it trends. Typically, people don't pay their specials off early. So that's why that one looks wonky. Payment in lieu of taxes, we do receive some dollars in there, off of, different IRB projects, so those dollars go into that bucket there. And then you'll see the cap interest. Okay, I'm trying to think here. I'm trying to flesh out some of these old line items that I don't use anymore. So, yeah, so that's why there's nothing there. We're not gonna use those anymore. Transfers from sewer fund and transfer for water fund. I went ahead and bumped them up just a little bit based on I think it's good to start putting a little extra dollars over there from those two funds if you have it, because we're gonna have some debt service that's gonna be coming due over there, and we can make some adjustments. So I feel like as I've looked at the water fund and the sewer fund, I've got those extra dollars just to kind of shove in another place to hold them for just a little while. So.
Those dollars are paying off the debt on the wastewater treatment plant and the transmission line projects that are predate all of us.
Yeah. Oh, this is what I was trying to explain earlier, and I was like, I don't understand why that makes sense, I'm just gonna move on. Expenses, this is where I'm trying to, Matt kinda had them all over in different categories, I'm trying to get them all into 2 categories, so legal publications will never come out of here, I don't believe. We should have principal and interest payments only coming out of this, and cost of issuance fees. So this is kind of what I anticipate our principal and interest payments to be as today. For next year, this would be different, obviously going into the future, as those debt schedules change a bit, but again, it's really hard to put those out there, especially when we have so much coming on and then some coming off, and it just, my spreadsheet, you should see it, it's ridiculous. I mean, just trying to break it down so everybody can understand it. Ta-da.
Mayor, I didn't want to say one more thing, but I will. That 2025-3, which is the park, the water looping, and the public works facility, that's gonna be probably 20% of that amount that you see there, because of 2 of our projects specifically are coming in well under budget. So that's still a lot of money, but it's gonna be a few million less than what you're seeing there when you go to permanent maintenance of those projects.
On your expenses, recap one, like the last slide, you said you were considering paying off one of them early, right? Would that just be added to the principal payment line then? Or how does that?
If we pay that one off early, this is where it's confusing. This is all GO permanent finance debt. The one we pay off early is held in either the capital improvement, it's held in the capital improvement fund right now, so it's not over here. All temp note stuff, all projects that we're working on are handled in the capital improvement fund and our project funds over here. So it really wouldn't affect this.
Okay.
I'm just showing you the schedule of temp note debt, so you'll just know what's there, and what's coming, even though those are outside of this fund. Okay.
We issue temporary financing based on what project cost estimates are. We put a little creep in there, because sometimes, like this lift station we're getting ready to build, the estimate is 3 years old. And once we go to permit finance and we have the actual cost when construction's done, we'll bundle them all together. Hopefully it's a large issuance of several temporary notes. They'll go out on the open bond market, a bond buyer will give us a competitive interest rate, and that's when it's converted to general obligation debt and goes into this fund. So, anytime you guys are accepting petitions, for residential development or a park or public works facility, at some point we'll have others. We don't petition for the city's projects, the other ones we do, but that's all for temporary notes, temporary financing.
So, and so if we paid off this SCADA early, it would never go on this schedule.
That's usually,
Yeah.
Keep our debt payments lower, you're not paying all the interest for 20 years.
oh yeah, well, that one makes sense. I just, when I saw the recap kind of thing here, you know, I was curious how it tied back.
Yeah.
How many millions do we have in temp notes? 50, 60?
It was on there.
36 just last year.
Yeah.
74 million.
That's a little low.
Well, if you were only looking at the 2 that got added.
That's right.
But those 2,
No, maybe not.
that come due in 2029, I mean, $37 million. You guys helped do that. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn.
Didn't even get it out.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Brooke, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you guys for appreciate the discussion. Our next
Thank you
topic.
all for staying so late.
Yeah, and thank you for coming, yes.
Yeah.
appreciate it. Our next topics will be the utility funds, special parks and rec, and tourism fund on the 9th, so. Then we'll wrap up the final with the small funds, capital improvement fund, equipment reserve fund, and maybe a recap of anything that we've discussed between now and then, so.
Very good.
I've got lots of follow-ups for you guys, and there's something you asked, so I'll get you some emails out the rest of the week.
Don't feel pressure to sing
all
all
so
the
much,
bars.
thank you very much.